we're live.
Sure.
You're right with you guys. All right. You ready?
Yep.
Go. All right, it being 6 o'clock, we are going to call the meeting of the Yelm City Council of April 27th, 2021 to order. And we'll do so in our usual fashion by doing a pledge of allegiance to our flag. We have a new tech person working the meeting tonight, so I'm not sure that we're able to put up the virtual flag, but if so, she would do so now. And if not, find a flag near you as we stand in council chambers to do our address. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Will the clerk take the roll, please?
Councilmember James Blair,
Councilmember James Blair called in prior to 5 o'clock this evening saying he was unable to make the meeting.
Councilmember Molly Carmody,
Here.
Councilmember EJ Curry,
Here.
Councilmember Tracy Wood,
Here.
Councilmember Joe DePinto,
Here.
Councilmember Terry Kaminsky,
Here.
Mayor J.W. Foster.
Here.
Thank you.
I move to excuse Councilmember Blair.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Kaminsky. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The log will show, the minutes will show that Councilmember Blair was excused by council for his absence tonight. Next on our agenda is the agenda approval. And before I go forward, I just want to make sure people watching the council meeting at home, this is a virtual meeting, a hybrid. Again, in chambers, we have council members DePinto and Curry and Mayor Foster, and the rest of the staff and council members are attending virtually. And we're also live streaming on YouTube. So you're able to watch this in a variety of ways. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a bit of a delay in the streaming. So sometimes our mouths and our words don't match up, but it is all recorded for your viewing pleasure at the conclusion of the meeting as well. With that, could we approve the agenda for this evening, please?
I move we approve tonight's agenda. This is Tracy Wood.
Second.
EJ
Curry.
Thank you, Councilmember Curry, for the second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have an agenda. That moves us right along into special presentations. And I will tell you that the student of the month for March, Mr. Harrison, is unable to be with us this evening because of a school obligation. So we're going to move his presentation to the first council meeting in May. And the second council meeting in May will have the student of the month presentation for April. So just to keep you up to date on that, we look forward to meeting Joe at the first meeting in May. Which brings us to the annual, the perennial presentation of a proclamation supporting bicycle use. And I'm going to read the proclamation first, and then we have Duncan Green with us tonight as a attendee, and I'd like to see if you want to address the council on this particular proclamation. A City of Yelm, Washington proclamation. Whereas transportation accounts for about a third of the energy use in Washington state and about half of our carbon dioxide emissions. And whereas bicycling is one of the most energy efficient forms of transportation ever invented and is a mode of transportation well suited to community environments where trips are short in length and overly congested roads are difficult and costly to expand. And whereas bicycle commuting reduces energy consumption, pollution, and congestion. And whereas bicycling makes people healthier and more productive, prevents chronic disease through physical activity, and supports physical, emotional, and mental well-being during a pandemic. And whereas the National Nonprofit Bicycling Safety and Education Association, the League of American Bicyclists, has declared the month of May to be National Bike Month for each of the last 64 years and has done so again in 2021. And whereas the city of Yelm has completed 2 commercial collector roadway projects that include bike lanes, a 3rd roadway project that includes bike lanes that connect to Yelm Middle School, and whereas the city of Yelm encourages and supports both walking and bike traffic through our development standards, and whereas intercity transit with sponsors including the Capital Bicycling Club and many area businesses is hosting the 34th annual Bicycle Commuter Challenge during the month of May. Now, therefore, I, J.W. Foster, Mayor of the City of Yelm, on behalf of the Yelm City Council, proclaim May 2021 as Bicycle Commuter Month. I would like to, at this point, we can elevate, oh, I think we've already done so. Now I'm not seeing him as an attendee. We have him, Duncan, as a panelist. There he is. Hi, Duncan. Duncan, would you take a minute to address council about this important proclamation in this month?
Absolutely. Thank you. For the record, my name is Duncan Green, and I represent Intercity Transit and the Thurston County Bicycle Commuter Challenge. And I just want to thank you, Mayor Foster and Council, for proclaiming May as Bicycle Month in the city of Yelm. And as you said earlier, the bicycle challenge is perennial, and believe it or not, this will be the 34th consecutive year of the Bicycle Commuter Challenge, making me believe that it's the longest running bike challenge of its kind, if not in the nation, at least in our region. So for nearly 3.5 decades, the BCC has been encouraging people to use a bicycle for some of their transportation needs instead of driving. And many things have changed in that time. Our local bicycling infrastructure has improved, and the number of people riding bicycles for all reasons has been on the rise. And you don't need me to tell you that change is happening right now. Many people, as you can see, are working from home. Others are still out of work or can't afford a car. Bicycling remains a lifesaver, though, either as an affordable means of transportation or as a way to just get outside and exercise for physical, emotional, and mental health. And for all these reasons, we've adapted the bicycle challenge for this year. All rides count in the BCC, not just rides for transportation. And for myself personally, I know that getting out on my bike each day, even if it's only for a half an hour, has really made a difference to me in being able to weather the challenges of life in a pandemic. And this year's theme for the BCC, as we have a new theme each year, is Bicycle for Joy. And that was inspired by an art submission in our winter bicycle art contest. And the picture, which was drawn by the 7-year-old daughter of an intercity transit employee, shows a family out for a bike ride and just really enjoying themselves. And when I showed the picture around to some others at Intercity Transit and other BCC supporters, their reaction was, yes, we need some joy and levity right now, so we should use this image for the BCC theme. And so we're you can see the poster on the BCC website if you're interested to see that piece of art. Also, our sponsorship situation last year, as we were just ramping up our preparations for the BCC, is when this whole thing came down on us. And so we've just kind of put a pause on the whole sponsor program for last year, but people are coming back. We have 36 sponsors back with us this year, and lots of discount coupons and prize items to offer thanks to these sponsors. and an amazing grand prize of a bicycle vacation with Adventure Cycling Association. So we have that back on board again this year. It's easy to participate in the BCC as an individual or as a member of a team. You can just go to bcc.intercitytransit.com and sign up or log into your existing account if you've done it before. And also feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or any issues getting on board. My email is dgreen@intercitytransit.com. Always happy to answer questions. And so in what I'm thinking of as a season of cautious optimism, tempered by many unknowns, let's let bicycles bring some joy into our lives now when we really need it. And that's what I have to say, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Excellent. We appreciate you taking the time to come all the way out to Yelm for this presentation, as you always do.
Indeed.
It's a little easier this year. Were there any questions for Duncan? Yes, Councilmember Wood.
I just want to say thanks, Duncan. It's been a long time. We've been seeing you year after year after year, and I know my business likes to be involved with you as well, and we always look forward to your phone call, looking to get us involved with you, and we appreciate the opportunity.
And Duncan, I did have a question. I was recently able to take advantage of an e-bike on a trail system, and I found it really a nice way to get from one point to another. I do admit that I probably used the e portion of the bike more than the pedal portion of the bike for that particular tour. But what are your thoughts on these e-bikes and how they can help people get more out into bicycling?
Well, you know, I'm really excited by the possibilities. I think e-bikes are opening up lots of possibilities for people who wouldn't normally consider riding a bike for one reason or another, or might not be able to, you know, go as far as they want to go if they have, you know, some physical limitation that would prevent them from, you know, getting up a hill or going a long distance on the bike, or carrying a heavier load than they might be able to on a regular bike. So it seems to me that the e-bikes are you know, they're opening up lots of possibilities, and will possibly you know, reduce drive alone trips in cars, which is great.
Excellent. Thank you for that perspective. And I'll just choose to ignore the comment about me needing a bike to carry extra weight. I'm smiling, Duncan. I'm smiling.
Not directed at anyone.
I know. Thank you so much for coming out and for spreading that important word. Stick around if you'd like, and we'll see you next year or out on the trail someplace for sure.
Indeed.
Thanks, Duncan.
Thank you.
At this point, we're going to move on to public comment. I'm going to double check here. We don't have any requests by writing, but I'll take a look at the participant list, the attendee list, and see if there's anybody present and the attendee list who would like to address the council on matters that are not on the agenda. I know we have some people that we see often, and nicely, I do see a person who has applied for the open council member seat. Thank you, Kelsey, for being here tonight. But I don't see anybody with their hand up, so I'm going to say that we don't have any public comment. So the next item of business for the council is the consent agenda, and as it shows on the agenda, this consists of the April minutes for 6th and the 13th, the March financials, which are listed in your packet, and then something you haven't seen for quite a while. These are the requests that by our protocol need to just go before the eyes of council for approval of the part for community-wide events. And you see that these folks have put in the appropriate application for use of the community park for the National Day of Prayer, the Nisqually Valley Barbecue Rally, and Jazz in the Park event. And all of them have been told, of course, that they need to be in full compliance with the guidelines coming out of the State Department of Health to be able to hold these events, and they're all willing to comply with those rules. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later in my report. But these are for your approval on the consent agenda. Again, with a consent agenda, if you're okay with everything on it, you just move to approve the consent agenda and we move everything forward. If there's something on the consent agenda that you wish to pull off and discuss, we can do that. But that would be the first motion if necessary. Otherwise, we'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda in whole.
I move to.
Go ahead, EJ.
I approve to move, to approve the consent agenda in whole.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, very good. Thank you. And I understand also that another applicant for the open council position, Kayla Russell, is watching tonight's council meeting. So welcome, Kayla. All right, our new business is Resolution 614 about the National Fitness Campaign. And we have the much anticipated Cody Colt presenting.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. So as you know, we've talked about this a little bit in our discussions. This was started by the mayor who got contacted about a fitness or possible fitness center. We applied for the grant at the behest of the Public Works Committee. And we got the grant. Part of that fulfillment of getting that grant money and kind of moving forward with this project is adopting the resolution in your packet, which kind of dedicates us as a fitness city and says we will partner with the National Fitness Campaign. And when that partnership, we will, do our means to look for sponsors and try to get funding to help build this, along with the grant they're giving us of $30,000. So I'll be happy to take any questions. We kind of talked about this a little bit, but I know if you have any other questions about location, other things like that, we can go further in depth. We will be having more meetings about this as we actually go to move to construction at some point, if we find sponsorships or get sponsorships for this. So happy to answer questions. Councilmember Pino.
Thank you. Could you just go over briefly the budget for this project? Just what we'll get in grants, matching and all that stuff.
Yeah. So the project costs roughly in full about 120 to, depending on what we do for the banner, to $150,000. We applied for a grant from National Fitness Campaign in the amount of $30,000, which is the max. We were awarded the max grant of $30,000. And in that $30,000, we pledged that we would match that $30,000 with either sponsorships, other monies, any we can match it any way we can. So some of the money is already in the park budget, as you know, plus we applied for a grant through the Port of Olympia for $10,000, a small business grant, which will cover that $30,000 total with the money we already have in the parks. And then our hope is to get and reach out to sponsorship to accommodate that other $90,000 to $100,000. And we've reached out to a couple now. I don't want to tip the hat at all because they haven't pledged the money yet, but we reached out to them and it's looking like we might be able to get all of that money, or even some of the money we pledged, we might not have to spend because they'll put more forward. So
Follow up, worst case scenario, we don't get any of that sponsorship money. What do we do?
Then what will happen is we'll keep looking for other sponsors. We can't find any, the project will continue to get pushed. If we can't find any by the end of the year, then we'll lose the grant. And then we'll have to reapply if we try to do this at a future time.
Sounds good. Thank you.
A great presentation. Any other questions for Cody? Councilmember Kaminsky?
So thanks, Joe. Actually, those were most of the questions that I was going to ask. So if we go ahead and vote yes on this now, we're not beholden to actually do this unless we get enough funding for it on our own. How much are we going to have to take out of our budget?
So that's we can take out of our budget as much as council sees fit or as little. Our goal is to spend none or nearly none out of our current budget and look just for sponsorship to fill all of it. And I think the goal is, I think we have enough of a fit and a spot that people can use that we can find sponsorship to supplement the cost so the council, or we wouldn't have to spend any of the city of Yelm budget, just some of the grants we have gotten for this project specifically. So that's the ultimate goal. And like you said, if council decides that even with the sponsorships, it's going to be ultimately council's decision if we build this. So if we have all the money paid for through sponsorships and grants and council decides not to move forward at that point, we can still cut ties then. But ideally, if we had all the sponsorships, council wouldn't have to spend any money and we would just have to get the approval to place it.
Okay, so agreeing to this now does not obligate us to coming up with, the money.
Correct. It's a resolution that kind of pledges that we're going to work with them and do our best to honor this resolution and try to find that sponsorship.
Okay, thank you.
Not a problem.
Councilmember Wood?
Excuse me. I move we approve resolution number 614 to adopt and allocate funds for an outdoor fitness court as a part of the 2021 National Fitness Campaign.
Seconded by Councilmember DePinto. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That was unanimous of the quorum we have present. Thank you, council.
Thank you, council.
Looking forward to that. It's going to be a wonderful addition to the park. And reviewing my list, once again, I just wanted to update that we do have another applicant for the open council seat. Lynn Critchfield is also attending tonight. Thank you, Lynn, for weighing in. They must have known this was a short agenda. And so with that being all of the new business and we having no old business before us, we're going to start off with updates from department heads and then council members and then myself. And we have no executive session for tonight. So, Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. My microphone issues have been resolved. I just want to give a couple of brief updates. As you saw in my email that went out to all of you, we are excited to see the end of the legislative session and celebrate some successes there. There was a bundle of funding that went forward for recreation projects that'll benefit the trail. There was a package of loans, low interest loans that went through that will benefit what we're trying to do with the water reclamation facility. That was something that Ecology approved, the legislature had to concur with. So that's a real positive thing for us to get the low interest loan from the Department of Ecology in the state. The other thing that you saw in my email was we were successful in securing funding, and thanks to everyone that was involved in that, for the bio dryer. This is a new component that is in part of the plan that you adopted back in 2014, 2015, 2016, and Cody Colt said, hey, let's accelerate action on this and let's build the plant, put in the bio dryer at the same time, which you've heard a lot of excitement from a lot of the residents that will use that product for positive uses in their garden and their yards and whatnot. So anyway, by asking for capital funding for the bio dryer, one of the two, that will help reduce the overall costs of that low interest loan that we're going to take from the state, which will have a positive benefit for the ratepayers. So great news there, and again, thanks to everyone that's been involved in that. The other thing that I want to touch on is transportation. I know there was a lot of information in that email that I sent out, but the short version is, the funding for the Yelm Loop is still on track. It just is going to keep taking a long time and a lot of money. The legislature was also able to appropriate funds for the I-5 portion that crosses the Nisqually River Delta. As you received an update on this when we discussed our transportation priorities, that oxbow that is forming in the Nisqually River could just wreak havoc on the region and the infrastructure. And we need to start planning for this now. So the legislature was able to find funding to secure that as part of the regional coordinated effort to address capacity issues for economic security, environmental stability, as well as the impact that would have on JBLM, let alone all the traffic that would be rerouted through our community. So many reasons to celebrate the win of the legislature finding funds for that important project going forward. The last thing legislatively I want to update you on is news that we just received an update on today, and this is from our congressional delegation. I know the council said, hey, we don't play at the congressional level. You guys didn't adopt the federal legislative agenda. We had the opportunity through the CPF, the community project funding, to make an ask of our Congresswoman, Marilyn Strickland. This is something that every delegation was asking their communities for. And so we looked at our big rocks projects that have already been prioritized and adopted and said, hey, we're going to have to buy some land for the habitat conservation plan that we're developing down the road. So why don't we ask for money to buy that land using federal dollars? So the good news is we made a compelling case on that. The Congresswoman pulled together a committee and said, hey, we're going to select 10 projects that are going to go forward to the Appropriations Committee in the United States Congress. And our project was one of those 10 selected that will go forward. So we just got that news today. We're really excited. We've reached out to several partners that are writing letters. So thanks in advance to the schools and the tribe and folks at JVLM, TRPC that are writing letters of support. We will essentially make that compelling case to the Appropriations Committee. And now the fun part begins. We essentially wait until Congress takes action. So it's most likely that of all the projects that every congressional district asked for, they're going to fund one or two in each district. But it was worth us making a compelling argument consistent with the priorities that we already adopted to see if we can get somebody else to pay for the land. And we thought this was a good fit because, you know, the federal government is requiring us to protect and conserve these lands for federal endangered species. They might as well help pay for the conservation efforts on that. So fortunately, our Congresswoman felt the same way, and you know, we're just excited. So good news and more news to come. Realistically, they're gonna make that decision near the end of the year. So we're playing the hurry up and wait game at this point. The other thing that that I wanted to share with you all is an update on the finance director position. Councilmember Carmody was valuable. We reached out to the finance committee and said, hey, we really want council to have a role in selecting our new finance director. And I'm really excited to say that the top candidate for us that we chose also chose us. So we made an offer. That offer was accepted. Councilmember Carmody participated on behalf of the finance committee, on behalf of council in that process, asked some really good questions. And, you know, we just really showed a team front to this candidate that, hey, we're united, we're focused, we have some problems and things to fix, just like everybody else. But we really appreciated her expertise. She has a background with the state auditor's office, the county auditor's office, as well as a seasoned municipal finance director, something we haven't had, at least in the time that I've been here at Yelm. And she's a seasoned municipal finance director for over 10 years. So really excited. She's going to start May 10th. She'll be drinking from a fire hose, but we'll get right on the docket with having a briefing and an overview with the finance committee. They'll get the update from the independent accountant that we brought in, who has been doing yeoman's work. She's gone back all the way to 2006 and 2013 to look at issues that need to be reconciled. The good part is the things that need to be reconciled are cash positive, not negative. So that's good. But there's a lot of corrections and clarifications that need to be made as part of filing our annual, financial statements to the auditor. But like I said, they're to the positive, not the negative, which is a good thing. We'll give the finance committee a full debrief and then the full council, and then we'll get right on track with the quarterly budget adjustment process. So more news to come. Please stay tuned on that. The second to last thing I wanted to talk about, you've been hearing a lot about the boards and commissions process. And the most important part about that is, Kathy and her team have been doing yeoman's work for the council to do what you did, which is adopt a clear and consistent approach. Now we need your help. What I'm going to do at every one of our meetings, or at least once a month, is call out the number of vacancies that we have on different boards. Just one more opportunity for those that are tuning in to hear about opportunities to get involved with the community. And we would just ask that you, through social media and your connections and friendships and relationships, just push that out there. Really encourage people to get involved and make a positive difference by serving on these boards and commissions as we gear up. So we're into that recruitment process to the community, and I'd ask for your help. I'm going to do an interview with the NBN tomorrow, and they're going to help us get the word out there. So just please help us spread the news. The last thing I want to talk about is not something that I'll say, it's something I want to hand off to Todd. Chief Stansel has done a great job with the Thurston County Disaster Recovery Council. The mayor has been heavily involved in this, so is the Public Safety Committee. And we just thought it was really important for you to hear what the next steps are for the Thurston County Disaster Recovery Council. And this will be an item on your docket here. I mean, what, are we in 2 meetings? Is that right, Todd?
May 25th.
Yep. So Chief Stansel will bring home the last update on the docket, and I'd be glad to answer any questions after he's done.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Hello, council and guests. Nice to see everyone. I'll just go ahead and just give a real quick overview from the police side, which includes the emergency management piece, just to let everybody know what's going on. Many of you may have seen the theft we had yesterday at Longmire Park. We shared the video. That was seen by over 110,000 people and was shared over 1,500 times within 24 hours. It's fantastic use of social media to get that word out. We did locate the truck this morning at a residence just outside of Yelm. However, we're still trying to locate the driver and the products that were stolen. So we weren't able to recover the products yet, but we know at least who was driving the vehicle, and we're familiar with that individual. So we're optimistic we can track that, hopefully get that equipment back to the Nisqually Basin literally. Outside of that, we had both of our 2021 hybrid police vehicles came in last week. They're in the process of being outfitted, getting the decals on them at this point, and then they'll start to get the radios and the equipment. So in the next month or two, we'll see those. As you remember, last year we purchased one hybrid vehicle, and just as a test case, the fuel mileage in our hybrid vehicle that we have is at least double from what our previous vehicles were getting. So the idea that over time we will save thousands of dollars a year in fuel will happen, especially as we get these into our fleet more than what we have. The police department is going to do a presentation at the Yelm Chamber May 11th. We'll be the presenters at that to discuss crime and business crime prevention type stuff going on in our local community. So we will talk about that. Moving on to the emergency management world, we're doing a lot of work on Cascadia Rising 2022. That will happen in June of 2022. As some of you may remember, we did a Cascadia Rising event in 2016. That was more focused on the event as it happened. This particular event is a nationwide event that will focus on recovery. So it will actually take place beginning from day 6 of the event, and will be centered very heavily on transportation impacts with an event of that magnitude. So public works departments, DOT, those types of folks will be heavily involved in that. City of Yelm will be participating in conjunction with Thurston County and the other cities within the county from more of a team aspect going forward. We did our spring executive emergency management seminar last night virtually. We had over 70 guests attend virtually in the county. This was directed towards elected and appointed officials in the county. Mayor Foster participated from Yelm, so thank you for representing Yelm, Mayor Foster. It was an emergency management 101 presentation, as well as a presentation from Dr. A from Thurston Community Health to give an update on the pandemic. And the last thing I'll mention, as Michael already alluded to, is we've been working on now for almost a year an interlocal agreement that will establish a Thurston County Disaster Recovery Committee. This committee, there's no commitment of money from the city, but there is a commitment of a body to be a representative on this committee as soon as it is signed by 6 entities. And so by Yelm signing next month, hopefully, we'll present that to the council We will be one of the first cities to sign this agreement to work towards an agreement that we can focus on long-term recovery should we have an exercise or an actual event occur in Cascadia. A lot going on in the emergency management world, and that's just kind of a high-level summary overview. If there are any questions, I'd love to answer them for you. Terry?
Thanks, Chief. Wasn't there supposed to be an earthquake warning system thing come on soon as well?
Yes. So the earthquake warning system that is coming on, we just received that today. Let me find, it should be May. We sent out, we used social media. We used the City of Yelm site to send that out to folks. Here it is right here. April 29th is when it is set to come out. So this is an earthquake, and you might have been involved in the drill that happened a couple weeks ago. You didn't have to sign up. Your phone was just supposed to get a message like a silver alert or any type of alert like that. If you were a Verizon customer, there were only about 40% of Verizon customers received that call. That's why it was a drill. They've worked with Verizon to try to fix that issue going forward. And so it's my understanding, I'm sorry, it goes live May 4th. Yeah, they're doing a meeting on the 29th that I will attend, and then they're going to go live May 4th. And so the plan is we'll put that back out again to let folks know as far as they can sign up for that. And the idea behind it is it went live in California over a year ago. Washington is the next one to go live with this. And the idea is that it gives you seconds to do something in the event that an earthquake is going to occur. And obviously an earthquake, seconds can be huge for those types of folks to get it. So, but yes, that will go live May 4th. Thank you, Terry, for bringing that up.
Welcome.
Molly?
Yeah, so I remember that we had when you're talking about the Cascadia Rising practice that we had in 2016, that was back when the city was at the old building and everybody moved over to the courts and set up their emergency system there. Have we done anything since we moved to the new building and worked out what's going to happen if, you know, Cascadia Rising happens there?
So yeah, we have walked through that and talked through it. The great thing now is because they're in the building they're in, and it does meet all current earthquake codes, and it does have the ability to be connected to backup power. There was no reason now to relocate everyone into our building. And so because of that move, that was a huge kind of a side bonus that nobody really talked about, but we all knew internally that it would be a very positive thing. And so, yeah, as of right now, that building that everyone is in over there should withstand an earthquake just as good as the building over here. Yeah. Any other questions, comments?
I have a technical question for council, for the people who are on the meeting tonight. We're getting a lot of distortion over the sound when Chief Stansel was talking. Is that everybody's experience? It was okay when Councilmember Carmody was speaking?
Yes.
But when Chief Stansel and when City Administrator Graham were talking, there was distortion. Am I
Yes.
hearing the same thing? Okay, we'll work on that. Yes, Councilmember Wood?
I didn't hear any distortion at all. Actually, both Chief and Michael were pretty clear from where I'm sitting. Maybe it was, I don't know. Seemed
Okay, good to know. And we'll also check with some of our other attendees on Zoom and see what their experience was. And we'll continue to fine tune this and make it a better experience for everybody.
JW?
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it was Michael's was very clear, but Todd's was distorted. So I don't know.
All right,
Oh,
good.
Bob had a little dog in the background or something. It had that little sound.
Mine?
Oh, Molly had the dog.
Yeah.
Big dog.
I do have my police radio on behind me, so that could have been part of the issue.
Well, I thought maybe you were on the farm because you sounded a little hoarse.
Oh, geez.
No,
It's Tuesday.
9
You
months.
have to make.
9 months, folks, 9 months. All right, if that ends Michael's report, we'll go to council member reports and we'll start in the order of, I see you here. So Councilmember Carmody.
Yeah, so I attended the Public Works meeting with Joe and EJ, and that was pretty much, we talked about the park there, the fitness park. So that's pretty much what we talked about. Then we also did talk about the biosolid dryer, and I'm so excited that we're getting funding from that for the state. That's amazing. I attended the Law and Justice meeting, and there we talked about the Supreme Court decision in Blake regarding drug possession, and it's a total nightmare for both prosecution and public defenders because they have to go all the way back to the 1970s to look for cases where people had no knowledge of their possession. And so they have to retry or readdress all of those cases. So not only is Thurston County alone backed up 10,000 cases because of COVID, but now you're tacking on another couple 20, 30,000 cases on top of that, just for this action with the Blake decision by the Supreme Court. The legislature in Washington is trying to address that. They are coming forward with some fixes and some changes that will address the Blake decision. So hopefully our prosecutors and public defenders won't be as backed up as we think they might be. But in the meanwhile, it's a complete nightmare. Nobody even knows where to start. In intercity transit, hold on, let me get there. Intercity transit, we talked about, we scheduled our public hearing for May 19th at 5:30 p.m. to receive public comment on our draft transportation improvement program. If you want to attend, you can do so via Zoom, and that information can be found on the Intercity Transit website. We also talked about Vanpool and how the Vanpool pricing system is really complicated and nobody's really sure how much it costs when they get into it. So right now it takes 2 full-time people just to calculate all of the Vanpool fees for all of the different people that are riding Vanpool. For example, it costs you more the longer you ride, and how many people are on your Vanpool. So the authority directed the staff to move forward with simplifying that whole thing and, in segments. So if you're driving X amount of miles, it's X dollars. If you're driving a little bit more than that, it's X dollars. And if you're driving a lot more than that, it's X dollars. So it just makes it a lot fairer and a lot easier to understand. So hopefully we get more people involved. That's about all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Curry.
Last week, the fire commissioners met to go over their bond documents and approve them, and they'll be submitted to be on the ballot for the bond for the Lawrence Lake Fire Station come this primary election in August. And the senior center received a wonderful large donation from a national insurance company that was just chairs, tables, desks, filing cabinets, holiday decorations, all kinds of things. It's very nice, and we thank them. That's it.
Just a note for you to take back to the Yelm Senior Center. The Rotary Club of Yelm for the last couple of years has used the Senior Center for the staging and bagging and distribution point for the summer feeding program. And we won't be needing that service this year because the grocery outlet of Yelm has stepped up to offer us storage space, setup space, bagging space, personnel to help us, everything. And of course, assistance in getting some of the food for that program. So
Nice.
thank you to the Yelm Senior Center for their continued support of the program. and to our community partners for helping keep that program going.
We'll miss you.
We'll come over and do something fun anyway,
Okay,
have lunch.
all right.
And on that, on the senior center, are they back to providing lunches for the seniors?
We've never stopped providing lunches, but South Sound Senior Services has not started providing food as of yet. They're
So-
having problems with some of their employees not wanting to be vaccinated. So
Seniors are still able to get a lunch
seniors are able to get a lunch there 4 days a week,
4
Tuesday
days.
through Friday.
Tuesday through Friday. Okay, thank you. Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended the Transportation Policy Board meeting. We went over our documents and our application process for our business and community representatives, making sure our language was appropriate for the times, and moving forward from there.
Very good, thank you. Councilmember DePinto.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Carmody covered the public works pretty well. Michael covered the legislative stuff pretty well. I do want to say though, I think that Class 8 biosolids dryer, the money we got from them, $850,000, it's going to be a huge help for us. Not just the city of Yelm, but also the taxpayers too, that the ratepayers that could potentially lower their costs, which it would be huge, lowering their costs in twice in less than 3 years. If we can do that, I think that'll be a huge win for everybody. The other thing that I was really excited to talk about was what Councilmember Curry actually discussed, which was the fire station out of Lake Lawrence. I know it's not a inside the city limits project or the city of Yelm project, but that has huge benefit for those people to give them fire coverage out where I grew up out at Lake Lawrence. Yeah, it's great.
And it does benefit Yelm because
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah,
we don't have to send a crew from Yelm.
exactly. Yeah, great point, Councilmember Curry, that it strains less on the folks here in Yelm that serve in our community, where you don't have to go out there to Lake Lawrence every time there's a fire out there or a medical emergency. It's a win-win for everybody. Other than that, I missed that one meeting for Steady that I was supposed to cover for CAD, but I looked at the agenda, it wasn't anything too crazy going on, so just reports from cities and communities. So other than that, I don't have anything else.
Well, they didn't call to ask where you were, so I guess you're okay.
They didn't miss me.
Now, let's see, there's somebody else that we'd like to hear from. Who might that be? Councilmember Kaminsky.
Hi, and thank you for putting on your camera, by the way. I was going to ask you that. It kind of helps us feel like we're more involved here on the screen.
You're welcome. It's hard for me to see which one. When I look up to see the screen in Chambers, it looks like I'm looking up. So I have to train myself to look back down at my laptop.
Just for the record, I'm really excited to come back in person, so long as I can speak without a mask, because I find I can't even think when I have that thing on. So that's just me. I attended the Nisqually River Council, and there's some changes going on there with people. Governor Inslee, not so happy about the taxes he proposed in the session just the other day, but one nice thing he did was he signed legislation to honor our very own Nisqually tribal leader, Billy Franks Jr., as a national resources and civil rights champion. And they're putting a statue of him in the National Statutory Hall in the US Capitol in Washington, DC. That's my report.
Great honor for a great man who served our community and the nation very proudly. Thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
All right, I will give you my report. Recently attended a briefing, two briefings on the same day, actually. One was for the Department of Health on reopening Washington's creative economy, basically fairs and things. And the other was on the State Transportation Commission. They have a regular meeting and I attended that. And some highlights from that. If you go to the State of Washington website, you can go to the Governor's Healthy Washington Roadmap to Recovery. And there's some guidelines there that we'll have to follow if we want to have these public events, these community events that we talked about earlier during the consent calendar. In general, they are saying that it appears safe to have an outside event if you use the formula of 72 square feet per participant using 6-foot distancing. And when you do the math on Yelm City Park, which is about 43,000 square feet of usable space, that means that we can have somewhere in the range of 1,000 to 1,200 people in the park for an event. But the caveat is that those people would have to still be masked up in certain parts of the park. If they were in lines, they were getting food from vendors and so forth, and we're still going to work all that out. And importantly, each one of the events would have to have a written guiding document that would demonstrate to the health department how you're trying to keep it safe for all of the attendees. And there's quite a bit of detail that we'll go into. But we'll talk to you more about that as time goes on. Of course, as if we just keep it, we're hoping that the vaccination takes care of the numbers to the point that we stay in phase 3, at which point we can do these outside events that we're looking forward to this year. On the transportation seminar, the takeaways were, not surprisingly, Washington is spending a lot on building roads and bridges and so forth, but not enough on preservation of that infrastructure, and which they're estimating that we're $6.9 billion in infrastructure repair behind. And so their big ideas, the big 4 ideas going forward, is that they want to proactively plan for the emerging, what they call Cascadia mega region, which is basically the transportation system between Portland, Oregon, and Vancouver, BC, with us being right in the middle of that. Also, while addressing the rural needs of Washington and the new emerging need for statewide broadband development. So, and their 4th big one is to make sure that transportation equity is achieved. So the other big thing they came up with is they're talking about gas tax, which has been a major funding source for transportation projects, is in question. It's uncertain because miles per gallon efficiencies are improving, which means the cents per mile revenue decreases for these projects. So the state is looking at transitioning to a road usage charge. There'll be a lot more coming out of the state on that, and that affects different parts of the state differently. So, but we'll look forward to the state coming up with new ways to fund the transportation projects, which are direly needed, especially out here, as you know. There's been a lot of focus, particularly on the I-5 improvements, and they believe that those improvements will benefit the state greatly. The other interesting thing I wanted to report back from that was there was a briefing from the Puget Sound Regional Council, who did a commercial air capacity study. And the highlights from that were, no surprise, that SeaTac and Payne Field are not able to handle the expected demand going forward. Now, they stressed several times that they are not advocating for a new airfield any particular place. They just wanted to let us know that in the 3 scenarios they developed, the one that would meet 100% of expected demand by 2050.
Say it again.
The one that would meet the 100% expected demand of air transportation, both freight and commercial, by the year 2050, 2050, would mean adding at least another commercial airport in the state, plus 3 additional runways, which the benefit would be $31 billion added to the state economy. They did look at regional airports to see how they could help meet the demand. And they did look, of course, at McCord, which would be able to meet some of the demand if it didn't have another incompatible mission. But they just wanted to let us know they looked at it. The 4 regional airports that could support an additional runway were Arlington, Bremerton, Payne Field, and the Tacoma Narrows. And again, they said, we are not advocating for any of those to be upgraded to additional runways. And we are not advocating for the positioning of a new airport anywhere in the state. They just said, that's not what they're doing. They just said, this is the need, and this is what you'd have to do to meet the need. So very specifically, they said, we are not looking at Thurston County to site an additional airport at this time. And I thought that you would find that interesting update from the Transportation Commission. Otherwise, the thing that's most exciting to me, well, there's so many things. First off, if you get a chance, please go over to Yelm Community Park and take a look at the butterfly garden that the Girl Scout troop put in with help from our Public Works Department, and the community garden to really making the Yelm City Park shine. And then the fact that we hired our new finance director, whom you'll all get to meet about mid-May. We'll bring her to one of our council meetings, and we're really looking forward to working with her moving into the future. Question?
Just curious on that report you made. Was Tumwater, I know you said they talked about Thurston County a little. Was Tumwater specifically mentioned at all in that?
Not in that report, no. It had been brought up in another meeting that I was briefed at the TRPC level. Remember the DOT came again and said, we're really not looking at Tumwater or Thurston County.
That's too bad.
In general. So, and it's going to be years before they make a move on that. But it's there are issues with Thurston County citing an airport, and most of it has to do with the fact that Olympia Airport is one of the foggiest airports in the nation.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, weirdly, you go 30 miles the other direction and it's not. But that's been known for years.
Seems like it's a good location.
It does seem like a good location, especially if you don't live in Tumwater.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, that's my report. If there's nothing else good of the order, I'm looking up. Yeah, Molly?
So everybody's been talking about our new finance director. Nobody's actually mentioned her name.
Her name is Stephanie Dice-McKenzie, and she'll be joining us starting May 10th.
Thank you.
Welcome.
To adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?